who is moving during those hours. There is a reason why someone is moving at night. Either they are going to Echo living within the city center and are trying to make their way home. They bundle them together, they put ropes around them. It's like a war situation, and then they make them move in lines. How is COVID-19 not spreading among those people you've arrested? Mr. President, there is really a big problem as far as the enforcers of SOPs are concerned. They are also drunk, just like the people whom we stopped from reopening in the bars. Well, those are some of the issues that are taking center stage within our dear country. But then I do have David Musidi, the head of institutions at the National Unity Platform Party, on this auspicious International Day of Peace. The biggest $64,000 question pertains to whether or not peace resides within this country. We've had various transitions since 1962, since the era of independence. 9 presidents have actually exchanged this seat, the power seat that we are seeing right now, President Museveni is sitting in. But then, is there peace transpiring within this country? David Musidi is here to expedite and dissect this conversation. A very good morning.
Good morning.
It's been a while, David.
Wow. It has been a while, but
you're doing
it's
great.
a pleasure that I'm here back today.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, I basically believe you're doing fine.
I'm doing well, sir. How is the new principal?
Yeah, the new principal is in good shape.
Yes.
Much as he's doing a lot of tours.
Out of the country.
He's just been in South Africa, and he's here to go to America just because he wants to touch bases with our supporters. Yeah. And basically, as much as he said...
So there's been disgruntlement when it comes to our supporters in Uganda here and then abroad, so he wants to bring everyone to the same page?
No. It's just because always, it is always very normal. It is very normal, and it is human to always meet as brothers.
Indeed.
As we say that this struggle is not a marathon, that means we are not sprinting, but whatever we are doing, we are only looking at getting him to the seat because he's the legitimate president of Uganda.
Now that we know how Robert Chagulanyi is doing, courtesy of the National Unity Platform Party, would like to now veer into this conversation. Is there peace in this country, David?
No. I think as Uganda as a nation, we do not even have the moral authority actually to even celebrate this day. Because as I talk now, as you've just been speaking to the traffic guy, there are a lot of people now, there are a lot of youth that are held in Communicado. A lot of them have been suffocated. Very many, those that are among us, the youthhood, they are right now being suffocated in these so-called safe houses. A lot of them. We have youth.
We still have NUP supporters.
Not only NUP supporters.
Struggling within these various safe houses.
Romeo, it is not only NUP supporters. We are in a country whereby you can be arrested just because you possess a tattoo on your body. Did you know that? The mere fact that police and security agents, those security sister agents, they find you with dreadlocks, you can be arrested and held in Communicado for all your time.
If you have tattoos and dreadlocks, they will quickly surmise that this is a NUP supporter.
Actually, not only that, but even being a youth, for you to look like a very aggressive youth in Uganda, that is also a crime that can lead you to prison. We have a lot of students right now. Today, my friend is called Serum Kuma John Bosco. Today is being presented to the Marshall Court. Can you imagine, Marshall Court, a student, a former guild president, is being today on 21st, the day we are commemorating.
International Day of Peace Day.
Yes, that the day we are commemorating peaceful peace. And I can tell you, I can attest to you that this student is being presented to a Marshall Court today. But why is he presented there? Just because he's a youth. One, he's arrogant. Two, he's aggressive. Maybe just the mere fact that maybe you look like, could be that maybe they think to like this is crime prevention, the one that they always talk about. But it's not all about that. But they think all youth and whoever looks to be aggressive, whoever has love for their country, they are NUP, they are NOP. I can tell you the government right now is under panic just because, not because we have guns, but because they look at us as the replica of Kadogos. Remember the Kadogos of 1980. Today they look at us as if we are the replica of the Kadogos. But we are not only the replica, but we are a generation that would want to give direction to this country. at one time we would want the Romeos also to come out and take shape, to come out and guide this country. This country is not for only the elderly. It is not only for a few, I could call it a cocoon of people that really do whatever they feel. They think this is home. They take this country just as if it is a family, which is not
So they
true.
are going around the streets arresting whomever they can find. As long as you are in that age group, you're having a tattoo, you're having dreadlocks, you look like a noob supporter, they will just arrest you. Is that what is happening within Massacre? Are they trumped up charges that we saw being slapped on your counterparts, Muhammad Segirinya and Alan Sewanyana? Is that a continuation of what we are seeing, government clamping down on your supporters and leaders within the noob circles?
Now, let me tell you, Romeo, we are in a country that is at war with its own people. Sometimes the tragedy that is happening, the silent massacre that is happening in Massacre and also in Karamoja region, it is an example that the country is at war with its own people. You can find, it is only, I think it is only the police, the sister agents of security that actually control the curfew. We know we have curfew times, and you can imagine now they are arresting, they are trumping charges on the comrades like Segirinya, the comrades like Honorable Sewanyana, and if indeed they were criminals, why aren't they taking them to court? You can imagine after just one day, they come out as a government and says these are terrorists. Yesterday, as per yesterday, I am telling you they are free, they are out, they were given bail. But how come that the terrorists, they are already out? And the mere fact that the
If they were terrorists,
president...
they could be recruiting right now.
I'm telling you, that's where this country has run berserk, I can tell you. There is a lot of some misconceptions that we cannot actually understand. If we can talk about the likes of Segirinya and
Alan.
And Alan,
yes.
today, if really they were terrorists, what do you think they could do? I think now you would be giving them more support to recruit if
they're out in the open.
Yes, and the problem we have as Ugandans, we are always drilled by just a few things. You remember when we had just had an assassination attempt on General Katumba Wamala, and the president comes to address this country on security, and only to surprise us, he comes with a cooked story about Chidawalime. And I'm telling you, the rest of Ugandans left whatever was right and went with the other story of Chidawarime.
So it was a diversionary
It was just a diversion.
David Musiri is the head of institutions at the National Unity Platform Party. We are now joined by Mercy Kayode. She is the VP, Uganda Youth Coalition for SDGs. Thank you very much, Mercy Kayode, for joining us on this auspicious International Day of Peace.
Thank you very much for inviting me here.
The theme is great.
Oh, yeah.
Recovering better for an equitable and sustainable world.
Yeah.
Why this particular theme, Mercy?
It has been crazy tough
Indeed.
over the past couple of months, I should say, starting last year with a question of COVID. And for Uganda, it's even extensive beyond the COVID. We just completed our general elections, and you find people in some parts of Uganda already suffering so much climatic tragedies. So at the end of the day, the question of peace, we need to look at it at a whole. So if you...
So for us, we were even looking at COVID-19 as a reason as to why there couldn't be peace. Even climate change?
Yeah, climate change is a huge factor. Can you imagine people in Kasese right now?
Yes, people grappling with floods.
At the end of the day, you find that it's not only the people in Kasese, because there's a spillover effect to this kind of disaster. They get into new communities and they have different lifestyles, and they have to be welcomed into these communities with their differences. And also you're going to find there are small fights happening. So at the end of the day, the question of peace is just beyond the guns, it's just beyond the war. It's a question of insecurity. For as long as you wake up one morning and you're sleeping somewhere and you're worrying and you're like, wait, I hanged my clothes out, it could be away. You're not sleeping in peace. Okay, the
peace resides in the hearts of the people.
Exactly, the insecurity, the dissatisfaction is a question of peace. So
let's go ahead breaking down these factors. Away from climate change, what else?
Of course, the question of the fact that there's, of course, a lot of factors economically in the country.
Because of COVID.
Okay, yes, even before the COVID, there's been factors already, but even COVID worsened the situation.
Yes, Marcy.
Okay, so I found my colleague here having conversations in regard to arrests and all these issues happening around the country. Yes, that is a question of course, insecurity to that particular group of people. But there's also the other part of Ugandans who are suffering questions of poverty. So at the end of the day, we need to look at all these things as a whole. Poverty is something so huge that we cannot really look away from, because at the end of the day, the spillover effect, if someone is poor, they don't have what to eat. If they don't have what to eat, they're forced to go and disturb a neighbor somewhere, steal food or get into their farms or do something wrong. So at the end of the day, we are talking about quite a number of things. The question of gender-based violence.
Indeed.
Yes, I know the question of gender-based violence has been termed as a women thing, but I know there are also men who are suffering gender-based violences. So at the end of we need to look at all these things as a whole. What can you do as
Indeed. Have our communities normalized gender-based violence? You know, they've just neglected this issue to the family affairs. They'll be like, okay, they are fighting, that is a family affair. Is that the reason why we are dealing with this big problem, gender-based violence?
I think we need to have more conversations around this, but also localize it in a context that the local person down there understands the question of gender-based violence. Because of course, all these, most of these conversations stop here at the high-level meetings in Victoria Hall or Serena. And when you go down somewhere to Chanamkaka, I mean, the conversation is not really well understood. So if we are able to localize the context, get it understandable that, my friend, you having to hit your wife is wrong. You having to discipline your children beyond what is supposed to be done is not right.
Corporate partnership.
You see that? So we need to think about ways of localizing and getting down to the last person.
Issues of teenage pregnancies, early marriages, yes, vaccinations not taking root in rural areas, people who are grappling with poverty, they've not received COVID-19 relief funds or support from the government, poor social protection tools. All these factors can never lead to the existence of peace.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, that is when you start to think of, as a young person, what contribution can I make? Okay? Romeo would wake up one morning and say, oh, I think I'm a specialist in this particular area, say proposal writing.
Yes, Kayode.
And you go in and take on proposal writing. Somebody out there is going to think, oh, I'm good at understanding the environmental question and factor to addressing poverty and climate peace. Let me go ahead with that. Somebody will think, oh, I'm good at strategic thinking. Let me go and think for a certain group of people somewhere. So at the end of the day, we get to the one by one makes a bundle adage making sense. Just like my friend here on the political side of things is doing great. Okay, so people out there need to also engage in other things. So together as a wholesome, as one unit, we can address the question of peace, insecurity, of course, coming out.
Gender inequities, Marcy Kayode, have been taking root during this COVID-19 pandemic. We can't even start talking about peace when we are actually violating our women.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
So
how rife has been this situation?
It has been, I should say, crazy tough, because the question of gender-based violence is not just about the question of physical torture. It's a question of emotional torture. Okay, just about 2-3 days ago, is it Daily Monitor publishing a girl that got pregnant twice in this lockdown, and I'm like, wait, hold on, how did this happen? Is this different men? Is this the same man doing this?
Members of the community, simply because they know this young girl cannot report because she's disabled.
No, but I think we need to go beyond our sexual desires. We need to think about what does this girl go through, because ideally you could find the man that got her pregnant is nowhere to be seen. How do you expect her to take care of a child? I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but even an association that is geared towards protecting deaf young girls, the Uganda National Association of Deaf People, actually the leadership was sexually abusing these young girls simply because they had speech problems, simply because they had hearing problems. They couldn't actually go to the police station and pinpoint a culprit. The teachers, the administrators at the Uganda National Deaf Association were taking advantage. I remember a couple of months ago, I was having an interview with the World Bank.
Yes, Marcy.
And I was glad to have visited Ndiro Cafe, the sign language cafe. From the manager to everyone, the waiters and waitresses, all they're using is sign language, and it was amazing. It was like, wait, wow. I think this is something that should be normalized in the school curriculum of Uganda, so that these people are able to access medical care for as long as a doctor has a certain sense of sign language and can tell also when this person does this, this is what they mean. When this person does this, this is what they mean. So somehow we should be able to aid communication in every way.
Indeed.
So that when a deaf and dumb person goes to the police station and the police man is trying to think so hard, and you could find ideally this kind of person can't even read and write. So if they are able to write, it could make some sense. But because they're not able to write, it is something else. Is there ways that we could think about other people, also the minority groups? How can we support them? Okay, how can we get them to access information? How can we get them to access assistance and facilities?
All right, that is Marcy Kayode, the VP Uganda Youth Coalition for SDGs. Yes, according to her, conversation, it seems like we are a long way from achieving SDG number 5 when it comes to equality for all. All right, let me also bring in that is David Musidi, the head of institutions at the National Unity Platform Party. Would like to know, Mr. Musidi, what is hindering this country from achieving total peace?
I think there are a couple of things. In this country, just like we were talking about the massacre at Masaka, you find we have been diverted just because of little things. I think the dictator that we have in this country, I know you don't know. You don't want me to talk about the dictatorship, but it is
David,
true. If someone has,
we wouldn't be here, talking about these issues. Let's give him some credit.
Actually, I can tell you, every person, even in this studio, whether Mercy, whether you are a victim of circumstance, you cannot know what could be your next step. I have seen journalists shot at.
I was arrested a couple of times.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about Akasirie. Akasirie, a senior journalist, was shot at, but because of doing their job. So that's what when I say we are in dictatorship, it is true. I was telling you there are a few things that divert us every time.
Yes, David.
About massacre, you cannot tell me that the president, the legitimate president would come out and say, I'm giving a handout of 10 million per everyone that has lost their lives.
Yes.
But for those that
for
those that are nursing wounds, for those that survived, there is no any help for them.
For those
I
who
am
survived.
telling you, for those that survived.
Wow.
And you can imagine in massacre, if you look at them critically, those families, each family that lost their loved ones, there are these families that are below the poverty line. And you can imagine giving them a 10 million alone, it is also a problem. I am telling you, these families are going to tear each other, and there is a lot of ruckus. Right?
You mentioned compensation, and many of your supporters were killed in November during the protests that took center stage after your principal tried to access Luka district. Yes. Many people were killed. The president said there would be compensation for those families that got caught up in the crossfire. Have you actually noticed any compensation taken center stage for these individuals?
Actually, before you can even notice, there is no compensation that is worth it.
So we are not
human life.
We are not compensating those. In November, but we are compensating people in massacre?
You can imagine, but even that relief that you can give to that family is not worth it. If you talk about massacre right now,
cannot put
I can tell you the family of Yasin Kauma that we lost in Alua, the family of Frank Senteza we just lost recently, the family of Rita Nabu Kenya have never got justice. And you can't tell them that you are going to give them either 10 million.
Kenya's case was contentious
and that's why
this
guy has, I think, managed how to deal with the population, the popularity of that we do, the kind of politics. Because today you find him saying that let NUP also join people power, join iPod, just because they want to have that clique, just like you see these cliques of Bagaga Kwagalana. You be there and sit and decide on what to do.
Organization,
and a lot of things we must be keen about in Uganda. Today, even in this pandemic, you can find that's why at first I was making statements, and real statements. I mean them because they are happening. I said the country is at war with its own people. Can you imagine all children, the students around the borders of Uganda are getting on buses every morning and go and study in other countries. Today, schools are open in Kenya,
Tanzania and Rwanda.
Now in East Africa, That's why I was saying we do not have the moral authority.
There
to
can't be
this
peace
day.
in the hearts
because
of those students.
Why can even I think Mercy knows about this.
She's going to indulge us.
I don't even believe. I don't know why even these kindergarten kids are not at school. There is no any kind of vaccine that you can vaccinate them. Their immunity is so high, even to those that are up to 12
well,
years.
the First Lady says when they contract, they are not affected, but they can pass it on to their parents. But that is a conversation for another day. Thank you very much, David Musidi, the head of institutions. Let's also bring in Mercy Kayode. How best can we move towards achieving total peace, the goal of total peace? How best can we achieve that, Mercy?
The question of total peace is also a question of Goal 16 of the Sustainable
Indeed.
Development Goals. And for a long time, I think the citizenry across the globe have kept thinking the question of peace is just a government question or development partners or just community leaders. I think it should now come to us that it's beyond this. It's a collective, it's a collective effort.
Yes.
What can you do? Because now that you notice government can't do all these things alone, what can we do as citizens? That is why, as a youth coalition for SDGs, we have decided to bring young people who are creating change or making impact in their communities across the country. Regardless you're Ugandan or not, for as long as your work impacts Uganda, we are bringing us all together. What is that you can do to fix a situation in your community? You think government is going to come and train people on how to multiply money?
Indeed. So that is a concerted effort that we should be expediting. So give us details of the day and activities of the day.
Now, for the Youth Coalition of SDGs, we are having a dialogue. There's already a Zoom link. If somebody can access it, at least they could join the conversations. And we'll be at the National SDG Secretariat at the Postal Building to have the conversation going.
Indeed. Mercy Kayode and David Musidi, many thanks for having made the time to speak to Morning at NTV on this very auspicious International Day of Peace. Please. All right. My name is Romeo Busiku and this is Morning at NTV. Yes, let's take a very short break. We'll return with a conversation largely basing on the plight of people with disabilities, especially the deaf. We'll be right back.